Welcome to Dare a New Belief, a place to discover what is possible for your life after the loss of a loved one, and where you will find inspiration, insight, support, and love, and hopefully a bit of laughter to help you through the day. Now here's your host, Nada Hogan.
Hello and welcome to Dare a New Belief. And what a beautiful day today that we have speaking with Joy Idries. She will pronounce it correctly for me. And
it's fine. Idries.
Idries. Joy is a woman who I just met recently at a podcasting convention. And I was just drawn to her like a magnet. I was super excited that she agreed to be on my show. So Joy's bio is she has lived a life of struggle, fear, suffering, and pain until a turning point inspired a mission to liberate 1 million people from suffering and awaken them to the truth that they are much bigger than whatever happens to them, and that we always have the potential to live joyfully every day of our lives. So, Joy, I would like to swing back to the very beginning sentence when I said that you have lived a life of struggle, fear, suffering, and pain until that turning point. Can you tell us a little bit about what was happening with you that caused all of this struggle and fear and suffering?
Sure. First of all, thank you for inviting me to be with you today, Nada.
Yes.
It's a wonderful, chance to get to know each other more and have this conversation. Thank you very much. So,
my pleasure.
The question about, the fear, the struggle, the pain, it's most of the early part of my life. And in fact, it goes right back to when I was in the womb and I was just about to be born. And this is where I feel it all started. It was a home birth, and my mother was there with obviously there, with my grandmother.
I'm glad she showed up for your birth.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, I love it. You're adorable.
She was there with my grandmother. And my father was alcoholic, so he was always he would earn money and then drink it all away and causing a lot of stress. And he hadn't quite turned up, when he's supposed to. And so just about as I was, starting to come through, he turned up and he was drunk, absolutely, sodden drunk. My grandmother, who was a bit of a dragon, she was so angry about this, what's happening to my girl here, with this man, that she hit him over the head with a frying pan. Now that sounds funny now, but it wasn't funny at the time.
Right.
It was a frying pan that was made of lead, one of those big heavy ones in the old days.
Oh, man.
And the result of that was she knocked him unconscious. And she thought that she had killed him. And my mother thought that too. And what happened was the shock wave went right through her body, went right through me. And I felt this impact like an explosion, that I've been smashed to smithereens, exploded into lots of tiny, tiny pieces. And it was such a shock. So that was my kind of introduction to the world. And it seemed to have set a pattern where I was afraid that the world was life-threatening. It was going to come and get me anytime. It would smash me to smithereens anytime. And of course, what you focus upon, you get more of. And that was, what really happened. The next part that I remember was when I was about 3.5 years, I think maybe a little bit older, 4. I was excited to make a cake for my mum. I wanted to surprise her and, cheer her up because she was always stressing out and shouting and things. She was in another part of the house. And here's me going into the kitchen. I find the flour, I find the butter, I find some salt. I'd seen her use salt, but I didn't have a dish. I didn't have a dish. So I just threw it onto the chair, all of it, together. And started, as you do, kneading with my hands, putting it all together with my hands, and created one holy mess.
Oh man, I bet.
And so when my mother came in, I was expecting her to be excited and, oh, you're making a cake for mummy, But of course, she was extremely stressed out and flew into a rage. And she grabbed hold of me and she started to shake me like a rag doll. My head going back and forth, almost falling off my neck. And she threw me down with such a force that she split my neck open. So I kind of got it there and then. Life is dangerous. It could happen any time. I'm not allowed to have fun. I'm not allowed to relax, because I have to be on my guard in case anything like this happens again. And so, I shut down and started to live in survival mode, trying to work out what people wanted, being the people pleaser, giving them what they wanted in order to feel safe and in order to feel loved as well, because I'd lost contact with myself. And so, I was looking for love from the outside.
Right.
This got me into trouble later on. At 14 years old, I actually was swimming at a swimming pool and this man started talking to me and I was getting attention, and I craved it, because I wasn't getting any attention from my mum and dad. And so I was really taken up by this, having some attention. And I was babysitting that night and I invited this guy to come for coffee, not knowing what that meant at all. I just thought it meant literally what it meant,
Yeah.
So this guy turns up and of course he was expecting something different. Right. And so when I started to resist, he got very violent and he threw me to the floor and jumped on top of me and ripping away at my clothes. And I started screaming at the top of my voice. I was trying to alert the neighbors. Poor little child who I was babysitting, I have no idea what they were experiencing. But, I was screaming at the top of my voice. And this man, he decided he needed to stop me screaming. So he put his hand around my neck and he squeezed so tightly, because he was concentrating on whatever else he was doing, that I lost my breath. I couldn't breathe. I was choking for breath. And I thought, at that moment, I'm going to die.
Oh, my Lord.
At that very moment, I got some adrenaline and it gave me the power to push him off. And I managed to escape. It didn't finish there. There were some disgusting parts that he insisted I, do as part of allowing me to be free. But at least I got away with my life, Right. And I didn't tell anyone about it. I didn't tell anyone because there was no one there to listen.
Right.
My mum wasn't available, my dad wasn't available. And as a 14-year-old, I thought I would just get into trouble.
Right.
But, you don't kind of take it. It's a serious thing. I thought I was going to die, but at the same time, I just put it back to sleep again,
Right, yeah.
And decided just to carry on my life. Living the way I'd been, I'd learned to live. And then I got to a stage where I met a man and decided to get married. And this man turned out to be an abusive partner. First, there was the knives.
Oh, my God.
And there was electric wiring that he attached to my wrists and plugged into the electrical outlet and turned it on, but it didn't work, by God's grace.
Wow.
And then one night, I was sleeping and something made me open my eyes. No idea what made me open my eyes. There was no noise, no shuffling about, nothing. But when I did open my eyes, I saw a hammer coming towards my head.
Oh, my God.
And I just had enough time to reach up and grab the hammer and stop that happening. And I ran away. I ran away from this man. Wow. He chased me, not immediately. I was running as fast as my legs could carry me, and I was scared, stiff that he was going to catch me, but he didn't catch me at that point. And I managed to get away. But for several years afterwards, wherever I found a place to hide, he would come and find me, and there would be other dramas from that. He kidnapped me at one point. I got away from the kidnap because the car crashed.
Yeah.
It's amazing what's going on, but I'm grateful that the car crashed, because then the police came and I got to the hospital and I found a way to get away from all of that. Whereas I was definitely on my way to, maybe my death again. So, it's like a pattern that came from that first moment, that I kept meeting these circumstances in my life where I was being faced with death and not talking about these things, or actually when it came to my husband, I tried to tell people about it, but nobody believed me because he was one of these guys that had a charming manner and face to other people.
Sure. Yep.
They just thought I was making it up or I was exaggerating, or, and coming from a, religious background, I'm supposed to stay there and make it work for the rest of my life, But then, I decided, well, till death do us part doesn't quite mean what he's trying to do.
Oh, right.
So, yeah. So I managed to keep away from that. He eventually died. He got into drugs and he overdosed. So that's the way I got free from that. But keeping all of this in, obviously it had an impact on my body. Right. So, I developed chronic fatigue. I actually got cancer as well, which was a life-threatening, obviously, illness, so again, the pattern, life-threatening, something happening to me. Fortunately, I did get through that. And the chronic fatigue was like my body closing down and saying, we're not going anywhere until you sort this out. And that's when I started to think about, there's something here I need to address. I need to find out who I am, first of all. I mean, I'd lost touch with myself. It felt like there was this lost little girl inside who wasn't being listened to or heard, and I wanted to free her and know what that was, or know what it felt like to be somebody, because I was this empty shell, acting out for everybody else.
Right.
So I started to look for things to help me, therapy and alternative holistic things going on, different things, homeopathy, for example. Nothing really helping. I don't think normal therapy helps that much. It kind of moves the furniture around a little bit, but doesn't get to the root of the problem necessarily. I got to this place where I was so depressed, so much in pain. I'd spent about 7 years crying continuously every day, so exhausted, that I actually came across something called The Journey, which was a weekend seminar that I said to myself, I need to attend this. I just something felt that I need to go there. And I also said, if this doesn't work, I'm just going to curl up in a corner and become a vegetable, because there's nothing else I can do. I've had enough. I didn't want to commit suicide, but I just wanted to withdraw from the world completely.
Right. And now, Joy, how old were you at this point?
At this point, I was 42, something like that. So it was about 20-something years ago. I'm 66 now.
Okay. Wow. I would not have guessed that. You look fabulous. I would not have guessed 66. No. Wow. So this went on for such a long time.
It did.
Oh, man. Yeah. So, okay. So you went to the weekend seminar.
Yes. Yeah.
And then what did you discover there?
Yeah. At this weekend seminar, it was just absolutely amazing. This is where my turnaround happened. And it was a miraculous turnaround. I experienced a process whereby you go inside and connect with your inner wisdom, and your inner wisdom brings forth what needs to come to your awareness for healing to happen. And I actually got a chance to speak to my rapist, not physically, but in this deep inner connection.
Right.
It came up like, speak to the rapist, empty out what you need to say, everything, and there was a lot to say. And empty out to your parents, your mum, your dad, what I need to say to them that I've been holding, feeling unsupported and with the rapist feeling disgusted and feeling like an object and, fear for my life and all of that kind of thing. So we had it out, basically, emptied everything until I could feel a sense of completion. There was nothing else to say. And at that point, I was able to forgive them and forgive myself as well. There was a part of it where there was the present me and the younger me having a conversation, understanding each other, and this child needed to express herself, even going back to when she had these earlier memories as well, and emptying all of that, because it was all kind of tied together.
Right.
And in fact, going right back to the womb with this inner journey work, where I got the message from God in an experiential way first, but also I heard it. I've brought you, you did get disintegrated, but I brought you back together. So I experienced myself coming back together and being reintegrated into a wholeness, which was really beautiful. It's just amazing. And so emptying all of this to the rapist and to my parents and so on, and my first husband as well. I came out of that weekend completely cured of everything. No depression, no chronic fatigue, no pain. I was jumping for joy.
Right.
My
right.
joy was unleashed, you know.
Yeah.
And before that, when I went into the weekend, I was almost in a wheelchair. I was kind of being helped in and sitting on a chair, could hardly walk. Prior to that, the day before, I was crawling from room to room in my home to get from one place to another because I couldn't walk. I didn't have the energy, or it was too much pain. So the contrast was absolutely amazing. And in fact, when I came out, I was singing and jumping, and my son, who by then was 10 from my second marriage, he turned to me and he said, "Ooh, I like you, mummy." And I loved those words, it's so precious. He likes the new mummy. It was like, wow, here we go. We've got a new beginning together, it was absolutely amazing. And I was so wowed with all of that process. I decided to train in the method. So I became an inner journey practitioner and started to share that with people, So,
Wow.
And this is my mission now, to do it on an even wider scale.
Okay. So, Joy, I just want to ask you, when you were on this weekend retreat and you're emptying all of this out, are you talking this out loud to somebody? Are you talking this to yourself, or is it a process that's very internal and it's all taking place inside?
It's funnily enough, it's both. It's like a guided interactive meditation. So you have your eyes closed all the way through. So you're very connected to your inner, but you have somebody there who's kind of helping you to keep focus, because otherwise you could easily kind of wander off, and get distracted by things. And, the person who's sitting with you helps you to keep the focus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they might say things like, what did they say? What did you say? How did that feel? What do you need to say next? What needs to happen? Things like that, which really, help to keep the focus on it so that you can properly and not leave things out. So I think it works, with a guided practitioner there.
Absolutely.
So that, yeah.
So how was it painful because we tend to want to bury the things that happen to us that are bad. And was it painful when you were going back through those steps? Because now physically you're in a very bad way, and mentally, emotionally, and heartfelt, things are trapped and stuck, and you're not evolving and growing as a woman in those regards because everything is being so shut down. So what can you tell us about that experience, what that was like to have to be back in those moments again? Because I would just assume that would bring up so much pain, but I don't know, maybe not for you.
It's a really interesting question. What happens is that you're taught first to connect with your bigger self. So you become mindful of what's happening inside of you, and you embrace all of that with a bigger embrace. You understand yourself to be this much bigger embrace that includes it all. And so you're witnessing the emotions and you're feeling the emotions, but you're not wallowing in the emotions. So you're not being pulled in so much that you're completely overwhelmed by them.
Right.
But you are allowing yourself to express them enough that they are being acknowledged and honored. So there are tears, for example, and anger, and you go through these levels of emotion. So you might be starting with, say, anger, and then you go to feeling rejected or feeling abandoned or feeling hopeless, feeling despair. But you're feeling them in a safe kind of holding or safe kind of embrace, so you don't get overtaken by it.
Right.
Which is, it's very beautiful. very beautiful to be able to do.
Yeah. Wow. And in a weekend, I mean, I am just stunned
Yeah.
by that because that is a lot of stuff that was going on for a long time. And
Yeah.
in a weekend for that to be able to turn around. And it was in that weekend also when you realized that impact just in the birthing of you. And thank God that your mom was there for that because I think that's so damned adorable.
It helps.
As you're being brought into this world, ushered into this world from this beautiful vessel that your mother is bringing you into this world. And it was at that same moment in that weekend retreat when you were able to feel that, see that, go back to that time of birth where you really felt that
Yeah.
shock in the world when you had come in. Did you experience it there?
I did, I experienced it more fully than I remember, because it was like a vague memory before, a vague feeling, if you like. But in that weekend, I actually experienced the fullness of it,
Wow.
and I allowed myself to feel the fullness of it. And it couldn't have words, even because as a baby, I didn't have words at that time. There
Right.
was just this gagging kind of thing of ah, 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 like this. It was very
Right.
strange. It was strange to actually witness myself coming out with that as well and experiencing it like that. But the most beautiful thing was being brought back together,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
this reassurance that God is there, or the divine is there to to really integrate and harmonize everything, even when things get disintegrated or damaged or in some way. The integration's there. So that was such a lovely message.
Right. Wow. And you got that message at that workshop. That's when you got that full message.
I did indeed. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit more about the work you do, but before we get to that, are your parents still with us?
No, in fact, both of them died, I think about 30 years ago now.
Oh, 30?
30. My mother died at 56
Oh,
of
that's
cancer, and my father died at 58 of thrombosis.
wow. Okay. And how was that for you at so 30 years ago? So at that time, you had not gone through this process, right?
No, I hadn't. That's
Okay.
right.
So how was that? I mean, it's almost like I would go ahead.
Yeah. Within the family, we had developed this, I don't know if you call it culture or pattern of love pain, the love pain connection, that
Yeah.
love is with pain. So going through, my father died first. So there was a sense of intimacy with my mother, of love, sharing the pain of my father dying. That's how I experienced that. Or me feeling love for my father and sharing the pain of him dying with him. It felt very close.
Yeah.
I didn't realize I had this pattern where I needed to be always linked into pain in order to feel love. When my mother died, I felt very much alone, or it was a time that I have to grow up now. I've stopped being a child. I have to grow up.
Yeah.
So it was a time for starting to take responsibility for myself.
Wow.
So it was very sad, of course, very sad to see all that pain, very sad to lose them at such an early age, and both at once,
Right.
more or
Yeah.
less. I mean, they died within a couple of years of each other.
Yeah.
Um,
So had you been able to forgive them before they passed away, or did it all take place afterwards at this retreat and then any other work that you've done after that, the forgiveness piece?
the forgiveness, I didn't even realize that I needed to forgive them,
Ah,
because I was so out of touch with myself that I didn't know myself needed that. I was just so out of focus and out of touch with myself that I was just doing whatever they wanted me to do, and that was the way it was.
right. Wow.
So there was no blame, because there was no person to feel that she needs to blame anybody. If do you understand that? It's like I was a nothing. I was a robot. I was an automaton. I was a mask.
Right.
I was so out of touch with myself. I was numb, basically, unless there was pain. I could feel pain. I couldn't feel happiness, joy. Laughter was for the sake of other people. It wasn't a genuine, spontaneous laughter on my part. For me,
Right.
I couldn't feel delight. It was about achieving, about being a good character, being a good mask. And I was pretty good at it. I felt a sense of achievement, and I studied and achieved things. I gained qualifications. My parents wanted me to achieve, and so I did that. Went to university and all of that. It didn't fulfill me. It was rather empty, really. There was something in me that wanted something but didn't know what it was.
Yes. And I love that, because that's the thing. And I think so many of us experience that. I've made all of these achievements and they're empty achievements. I don't feel anything from that. And at the same time, there's always this pull for, I call it, our becomingness, growing into our full potential of everything that we'll never know everything that we can grow into, because, I think we'd have to live. I don't think we could ever die, and we still would be growing into our potential. So, I mean, for me, that's just it's so amazing to go that many years. And we do that. We do it all the time until we have whatever our kind of awakening is. And I know for you, the awakening was definitely going into that retreat and and then becoming a facilitator yourself. And I want to swing back to you making the cake, because it made me think about my daughter. And I know that my story, how I got to where I am now, is my 18-year-old daughter was killed in a car accident. And, of course, tragic and completely out of the blue, nothing you could expect. So, but I believe she was about 10 years old, and she had made a cake with frosting, and she was taking the cake from in the pan and going from the counter and bringing it over to the table. And when she did, she had turned a little bit too quick, and the pan fell out of her hand. And I believe it was a glass pan, if I'm not mistaken, fell out of her hand, and it flipped upside down on the floor. And my first response was, oh my God, the mess. Like, I just can't believe we have this huge mess on the floor. And then whatever it was, to me, I always say it was like a God smack. When you get that little thump in the back of your head going, it's a cake. You can clean it up. It's no big deal. So the four of us, my husband and I and my son and my daughter, we sat down, and it could not have been glass. I take that back. That was another pan that she broke. She broke a lot of pans, apparently. But we sat down and we ate the cake off of the floor. And it was one of the most memorable moments that I had. And I always remember being so astonished in that moment that I was able to go from so upset and so angry about this mess, and then like this huge, oh my God, are you serious? It's nothing. Sit down, love that little girl, be part of that. And we started saying, like, that's how we're going to eat our cakes forever. Thank goodness we decided not to really do that. But so when you're making your cake on this chair, it's just, I mean, I understand that point of view from a parent. And at the same time, I understand that, God, that just had to have broken your heart.
Yes.
Oh,
That's great.
yeah.
I was so excited to share it with her.
Right.
From excitement to complete devastation. It was such a switch.
Right. Right. And it seemed like just the flip-flop from what happened to me, the devastation of there's a mess on my floor, to the delight of sitting down and eating cake off the floor, all four of us.
Wonderful.
Oh,
Yeah. You know what, Anne? I've never been able to cook. Well, not cook, but I've never had an interest in baking cakes since. So.
Is that right?
All my life, I've not wanted to bake. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's interesting. That's interesting.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about you now, Joy. Where are you at now? I know you're on a mission to help 1 million people. So tell me how you are doing all of that and how good it feels to be inside of your body.
I just love to see the transformation that happens with my clients and students, and it's just so magic for me, to see, to join in that connection with them, because when I'm working with someone, we're both diving into that wisdom and just surrendering to it and seeing what happens. It's like inner TV.
Oh, I love that.
It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And so each time I'm celebrating, I'm celebrating that transformation just for myself as I experienced it, and as I continue to experience it. It continually nurtures and nourishes not just me, but everybody I work with. And the miracles that I've seen are just tremendous, And I was doing it on a small scale. I mean, I still have my businesses that I'm running with my husband, so I couldn't be doing it full time, but I was taking clients privately and doing workshops and groups and so on. And I just, I said, I've got to take this out more into the world, that more people need to experience these miracles. It needs to be on a bigger scale.
Yes. Good for you.
Yeah. And, each time it's like, it's nurturing the joy in me. I'm connecting. It's like eating your favorite things, and as you say, the cake, you can eat the cake time and time again. And I'm like that with my work. I can eat that cake time and time again. It's just, it never diminishes, and it never, gets boring or anything like that. Continual delights and curious adventures. It's just what drives me, and it's also my give back. Because I feel like I've been blessed with this miracle. I've been blessed with this change, this transformation that, maybe I wouldn't have had, perhaps, I could have been all my life a robot, as some people are. So it's like, I'm so grateful to have that. I want to express that gratitude by spreading the word, spreading the message, spreading that hope and delight in people.
Absolutely. And isn't that just it? Because it seems like when we can take that negative thing or traumatic thing, abusive, horrible thing that happens to us, when we can take that and turn it around and use that for something good, it's like it's almost like we never would know how joyful we could be if we hadn't experienced the brinks of that despair, or being that robot for so long.
Just what I was going to say, and it just gives me chills when you say that, because that's the whole beauty of that. Without your deepest pain, you can't experience your greatest joy.
Right.
It's just so part and parcel of it all, isn't it? Really.
Absolutely.
I've got chills going down my spine.
Yes. And I think that when people understand that more, they start realizing, because I do believe that it's a flip side, that the deepest pain always has to have the opposite of something. And if we can know that those challenges that are showing up for us so many times, now, of course, we would never wish anything that happened to you, or the death of a child, or we would never wish that on anybody. But when circumstances happen to us and things happen to us, if we can remind ourselves that the flip side of this has to be something so big and so joyful and so beautiful, that I am going to look for that thing, and I'm going to take the steps to get to that thing, instead of being held down here in the hollow and not ever climb out of this. Because so many people just, I mean, the same thing, if you hadn't gone to this workshop, you were just going to curl up in a ball and not take your life, but you were going to check out. I'm just done. I can't do this anymore. And the intervention, like, what are the chances that happened then? And that, to me, is always divine intervention, that God's hand is in all of this.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Wow. I'm sorry that you went through everything that you went through. And I'm so honored, and I applaud you for where you are now and the work that you're doing now. And how is it? I know you said you're taking this now onto a bigger scale. You're not playing small with this anymore, and you want to touch 1 million lives. How are you doing that? What are the steps that you're taking to do that now, Joy?
Okay, well, one of the things is I've written a book, which is due to launch in the end of May, which is I'm I keep playing with the title. The title is Joy Unleashed, and sometimes I call it Goodbye Suffering, Hello Joy. So
Yeah.
it's the same thing in a way. So this is what I'm about to launch, and I want to reach people through that. They can read the book, and this is how I actually came to this weekend retreat. There was a book which explained the journey that this lady had been on, and she'd been through cancer and survived, and she developed this method of healing. So when I read the book, and then I was drawn to find out, more about her. At the back of the book, I rang the number that was there and found out there was this retreat happening. So in a similar way, through my book, I want people to be able to reach out and then find out that there are programs that I'm offering, retreats that I'm offering, that they can follow and benefit from. So this is how I'm hoping to get out there and get known and reach people and share miracles together.
Yes, I love that. Share miracles together, right? Because I ultimately, I think we all want to heal. I think that's just such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Joy, you're located in England. Will your retreats be taking place in England, or will that be around the world, or do you know yet?
Yes, I've already had two. I hosted one in Mauritius last December, and I hosted one in Morocco in April last year.
Well, you're picking fun places. That's awesome.
Oh yes.
If you're gonna go big and be in great places, right? I love it.
So I'm looking forward to choosing more exotic locations around the globe. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. So, Joy, as we start to bring this in for a landing, one of the things that just keeps coming back, and I feel like I'm getting a weird echo here. I'm hoping not. I'm your name, how your name is Joy, because we speak joy so often, bringing joy into your life or feeling the joy that's abundant around you and engaging in the joy that, just that nature offers. And it's almost like it was your calling from your name to be able to be in this place of joy, because all of your work literally revolves around joy.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
The truth about my name is that it became Joy. It started out as Josephine, and Josephine actually means the worker or the struggler. So I wasn't very happy about that. And over the years, my name had been shortened to Jo, and I added the Y to it because I was asking why.
Yeah.
Why is this happening to me? Or, why am I here? So just by adding the why, and also my dream, my vision for myself was to connect with joy. So I decided one of the best ways to do that would be to become joy in name and allow that to unfold. And it has been unfolding. It's amazing the power of a name.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So, this is my story of the development of joy from struggle and work to delight and fun and adventures.
Right. Wow. I am amazed by that because, again, I didn't know you started off as Josephine and then went to Jo and then asking the question why. I mean, perfect. All of a sudden you become Joy and you live right into your name. It's just
Yes.
wonderful.
Yeah.
So, Joy, how can the listeners contact you? And I know that you have a free gift that you would like to offer to the listeners. If I can do this correctly, I believe they can get your free gift by going to joy at trulytransformational.co.uk / negative.
Well, stop there. Stop.
Oh,
if you want to contact me, it is joy@trulytransformational.co.uk. That's the kind of my emailing. But if you want to pick up the gift, then you can go straight to the site, which is trulytransformational.co.uk / and then I forgot what.
Negative emotions, the gifts they bring, with dashes in between each one of those words. So negative emotions the gifts they bring. And listeners, please know that this will all be on the show notes. You won't have to stop driving your car and try to write this down.
I'm trying to remember it myself. Oh gosh.
Oh, I love it. It's just part of being human, isn't it? And it's part of being human, it's part of this being live, and it's just fabulous. So I love it. I love it. It just, when we can relate to one another.
I think I go blank when I look at the word negative.
Well, good, right? Or maybe that's saying something to you. Maybe we need to do something like that. I'm not sure, but I just love when we get to be real. It's, right? We're all on this path together. We've all had our own traumas and our own pains have shown up. And the most important part that I'm hoping listeners are getting is that it doesn't matter how traumatic that event is or that incident is, you can rise above that. You can come to terms with that. You can rise above that. And look at what you're doing, Joy. You're out there and you're doing these retreats and you're helping a mission of 1 million people. That's enormous. I love that. And I have no doubt that you're going to hit that. And the same thing where I do coaching, I do retreats, the same exact thing from my loss, I get to turn that into helping other people. And I really do believe that's what this world is all about, helping one another along their path. And I believe it's the beginning of world peace. I'm not saying that just to say that.
I know, it's exciting. I know, it feels like there's this awakened consciousness happening and everybody's kind of jumping onto it. It's fabulous.
Absolutely. And you can just feel that energy and you can hear it in your voice when you say that. Yeah, there's something big going on and we're part of it and all of us are part of it. How great is that? It's just beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So Joy, I want to thank you again for being here and remind the listeners all of Joy's contact information and her free gift will be on the show notes. So no worries with that. And Joy is located in the UK. However, she does these really fun retreats in exotic, fun places. So definitely worth checking out. So Joy, thank you so much. And before we close, if you have any last words of wisdom for the listeners, I would love for you to share that.
Thank you, Neda. It's been really lovely speaking to you today and being a guest on your show. I've loved it.
Me too.
Thank you. I think one of the things I'd like to say is whatever is happening to you, not to lose hope. That there's always a potential that you can dive into and access, and from there you can thrive. You can really thrive. It's possible. I want to give hope that it's possible. And I've been right down to the bottom, and I'm here now. So, and I've heard so many stories of people that also have been there and got through, and all of my students and clients just know that there's a way through, and on the other side, it's absolutely wonderful, absolutely worth whatever you're going through to get to that place where you can find joy and find appreciation and gratitude for where you are and what you've been through.
Yeah. The other side made everything well worth it. Absolutely. Well, God bless you, Joy. I have enjoyed this so very much, and we will be keeping in touch. And to everybody out there listening, sending you love and blessings and knowing that you got some great information from Joy today. And I look forward to talking to you all next Monday. Have a blessed rest of your week. Bye-bye.
Thank you for spending time with us today. Please go to nadahogan.com for show notes and other information that you can use right away. If you like what you've heard here, please subscribe to the podcast. And don't forget to rate and review right there on iTunes, Stitcher, or however you get your podcasts. And don't forget to tell your friends about it. We'll see you next week.